Good morning, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpa coming to you from the living room in Jack's Beach. Another beautiful morning looking out at the sunrise. But you're not seeing that. What you're seeing is Bartholomew and the Oobleck by Dr. Seuss. Now, for the first time, we're going to have the same character, and that's this Bartholomew Cubbins. I think the name of the book was The 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins. And I think the same king is in this that was in it the last time. So let's get started. There's something that they used to do when your parents were growing up on, I think it was called the Kids Channel, where they would slime people. They had this green slime that would pour out of the ceiling or something and get all over people. And it looks like we're going to have a little bit of that shenanigans here. Let's see what it is. This book is from 1948. So this was 5 years before I was born. And it starts thus. They still talk about it in the kingdom of Did, as the year the king got angry with the sky. And they still talk about the page boy, Bartholomew Cubbins. So now he's got a job. He works there. I guess he got that job because he provided that really cool hat for the king. If it hadn't been for Bartholomew Cubbins, the king in the sky would have wrecked that little kingdom. And this looks like charcoal drawing here. And Dr. Seuss, at least this time, early in his career, was into a lot of black and white with just a little bit of color. Like Bartholomew Cubbins had a red hat on it, so everything else was black and white, but the red hats, that 500 hats, they were all red. Bartholomew had seen the king get angry many, many times before. So he's like the personal page of the king. He's like the guy that runs and gets things for him and stuff like that. But that year, when His Majesty started growling at the sky, Bartholomew Cubbins just didn't know what to make of it. Yet all that year, the old king did it. All year long, he stared up into the air above his kingdom, muttering and sputtering through his royal whiskers. Humph! The things that come down from my sky. So the king, he's the king of this small kingdom of Did. But for some reason, he appears to think that he's the king of the universe because he says it's his sky. All spring, when the rain came down, he growled at that. All summer, when the sunshine came down, he growled at that. So on the left here, we see he's looking out of a telescope, and there's rain coming down. So the telescope's getting wet. And then he's on this funny looking horse with looks like a palm tree on his head. But it's not. I guess that's his his mane that's just tied up in a man bun, in a mane bun, I guess you'd call it. And so when the sunshines come down, he's growling at that. All autumn, when the fog came down, he growled at that. And there he is. It's fog. It's very hard to illustrate fog in a drawing like this, anyway. And that winter, when the snow came down, he started shouting, "This snow, this fog, this sunshine, this rain, bah! These four things had come down from my sky." But King Darwin, Bartholomew, tried to calm him. "You've always had these same things come down." "That's just the trouble," bellowed the king. "Every year, the same four things. I'm mighty tired of those old things. I want something new to come down." "Something new to come down," Bartholomew gaped, or gasped. "That's impossible, Your Majesty. You just can't have it." "Boy, don't you dare tell me what I can or cannot have. Remember, Bartholomew, I am the king." "I know, sire," said Bartholomew. "You rule all the land, and you rule all the people. But even kings can't rule the sky." And there on the right we see the king yelling at Bartholomew, and Bartholomew getting ready to tell him what he tells him. "Can't, eh?" His Majesty flew into a terrible rage. "Well, maybe other kings can't do it, but maybe I'm one king who can. You mark my words, Bartholomew Cubbins. I will have something new come down." But how to get something new to come down? That was rather hard to think up. And for many days the old king stomped around trying to figure out some way to do it. And we see him here stomping around. Then finally, late one night, when all the lords and ladies of the palace were fast asleep, just as the king was buttoning his royal nightshirt, he suddenly stopped still. A strange wild light began to shine in his gray-green eyes. "Why, of course," he began laughing. "They can do it for me. Bartholomew Cubbins, blow my secret whistle. Quick, call my royal magicians." And we saw these guys in that other book too. "Your magicians, Your Majesty?" Bartholomew shivered. "Oh no, Your Majesty, don't call them. You hold your tongue, Bartholomew Cubbins. You do as I command you. Blow my secret whistle." "Yes, sire," Bartholomew bowed. "But, Your Majesty, I still think that you may be very, very sorry." So here he is. He's in his bedroom, and they have a candle for a light, because back then they didn't have electricity, so there's the candle burning. Bartholomew's the page boy, so he's holding the candle for him. And the king's going, "Yes, I got this idea. Get the magicians." And here they are. He took the king's secret whistle from its secret hook. He blew a long, low blast down the king's back secret stairway. And here he is doing that right here. He's holding the candle, and there's the secret stairway. And we saw him going up one some of these stairways, I think, in the last book. And a moment later he heard them coming up from their musty hole beneath the dungeon. Up the empty midnight tunnel to the royal bedchamber tower came the magicians on their padded, shuffling feet. Up and right into the room they came, chanting, "Shuffle, duffle, muzzle, muff, Vista, Wista, Misto, Cuff. We are men of groans and howls, mystic men who eat boiled owls." They eat boiled owls. "Tell us what you wish, O king. Our magic can do anything." "I wish," spoke the king, "to have you make something fall from the skies that no other kingdom has ever had before. What can you do? What will you make?" So here are these guys. They're coming up the steps, and it's a dungeon down there. There's a mouse. Glad your grandmother's not here, because she hates mice. Not that anybody loves mice, but she especially hates mice. And she would hate these guys because her email address has brown owl in it. She has eyes like an owl, and she's a black woman with a kind of a medium complexion, so she always called herself Brown Owl. And her last name used to be Alford, so some people called her Al. "Hey, Al." I think Aunt Tina calls her Al sometimes. So she was Brown Al. And these guys eat boiled owl. Yeah, your grandma would hate them. So here they are, 7 of them, talking to the king, and there's Barth, Bart, Bart Cummins. For a moment they stood thinking, blinking their creaky eyes. Then they spoke a word, one word. "Oobleck." "Oobleck?" asked the king. "What will it look like?" "Won't look like rain, won't look like snow, won't look like fog. That's all we know. We just can't tell you anymore. We've never made Oobleck before." They bowed. They started toward the door. "We go now to our secret cave on Mystic Mountain, Nicotave. There all night long we'll work for you, and you'll have Oobleck when we're through." "They'll do something crazy," whispered Bartholomew. "Call them back, your majesty. Stop them." "Stop them? Not for a ton of diamonds," chuckled the king. "Why, I'll be the mightiest man that ever lived. Just think of it. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Oobleck." So the king is really kind of beside himself. It took Bartholomew a long time to get the excited king to sleep that night. But there was no sleep for Bartholomew, the page boy. All night long he stood in the king's window, staring out at the mystic mountain Nicotave. Somewhere up there, Bartholomew knew the magicians were working their terrible magic, and here he is, standing out there on that little balcony and looking up to that mountain. If you look out the other way, you look down the valley and you see where Bartholomew lives. Although now he lives at the castle with the king. So here are these guys again, and they have a big cauldron. They're brewing up something. All night, the magicians did. All night they walked circles round their magic fire, making magic mumbling with their clucking tongues. Oh, snow and rain are not enough. Oh, we must make some brand new stuff. So feed the fire with mouse hair, burn an onion, burn a chair. So the fire that they're using to make this potion, to boil it, is mouse hair and a chair and an onion. Oh, and some other things. Burn a whisker from your chin and burn a long, sour lizard skin. Burn yellow twigs and burn red rust and burn a stocking full of dust. Make magic smoke green, thick, and hot. It sure smells dreadful, does it not? That means the smoke is now just right. So quick, before the day gets light. Go, magic smoke. Go high, go high. Go rise into the kingdom sky. Go make the Oobleck tumble down on every street in every town. Go make the wondrous Oobleck fall. Oh, bring down Oobleck on us all. So there's an expression, be careful what you wish for. And I think everybody's going to find out that that the king shouldn't have wished for this. And here's just a little aside, but here's a cat, and there were 7 of these wizards, magicians, whatever you want to call them, and there were 7 cats with them in the other book. Dawn was just breaking, and Bartholomew was still standing, trembling, watching at the bedchamber window. But now, as the sun rose, Bartholomew smiled. Those silly magicians hadn't done a thing. Then, suddenly, Bartholomew Cubbins stopped smiling. Was he seeing things? No. There was something strange up there in the sky. At first, it seemed like a little greenish cloud, just a wisp of greenish steam. But now it was coming lower, closer, down toward the fields and farms and houses of the sleeping little kingdom. It was swirling around the topmost turrets of the palace. Tiny little greenish specks were shimmering in the air right over his head. Queer little greenish blobs, just about the size of grape seeds. And so you see him, he's looking up there, and it's a little hard to see, but there's a little bit of green. These specks there are very light green. He stretched out his hand, and there he is, stretching it out. He started to catch one. Then he pulled his hand back. There was something frightening about those blobs. Bartholomew slammed the window shut. "Wake up, Your Majesty," he shouted. "Your Oobleck, it's falling." And here's the king, and you can see now that the green blobs, it's kind of like rain, and now you can see a little better that they're green. The king sprang out of his royal bedsheets. "By my royal whiskers, it is," he cried. "Oh, that beautiful Oobleck, and it's mine, all mine." Dr. Seuss makes political statements in these books, but I'm not going to get into it. We have leaders in our country and in every country in the world from time to time who are like this guy. It's just not Oobleck that they're saying, "It's mine, it's mine." "I don't like the looks of those blobs, sire," said Bartholomew. "They're coming down now as big as greenish peanuts." And Bartholomew has turned into a Sancho Panza, Pon, uh, Sancho Panza, I think his name was, who was Don Quixote's page, just like he's the page of the king. And Don Quixote was somebody who was delusional. In fact, if you say something is quixotic, it means that it's unattainable, that it's delusional, that you can't get that. You're going after something that you can't get. You're being quixotic. The bigger the better, laughed the king. Oh, what a day. I'm going to make it a holiday. I want every man, woman, and child in my kingdom to go out and dance in my glorious Oobleck. Out in that stuff? Asked Bartholomew. Do you really think it's safe, sire? Stop asking foolish questions, snapped the king. Boy, you run to my royal bell tower. Wake my royal bell ringer. Tell him to ring the great holiday bell. For a moment, Bartholomew Cubbins didn't move. Run, barked the king. Bartholomew ran. And here he is, very happy. We'll see how long that lasts. Across the sleeping palace, Bartholomew ran, then up the ladder of the high bell tower. He climbed to the bell ringer's little cubbyhole in the belfry. So look at this ladder he has to climb up. That's funny. Ring your bell, he called. His Majesty the King proclaims today a holiday. And so we see that this guy's ringing the bell, but look what's coming through. The old man crawled out of his cot. He grabbed the bell rope. What's the holiday for, Bartholomew? You'll find out soon enough, said Bartholomew. The bell ringer yanked the rope. Nothing happened. He yanked it harder. Still, nothing happened. Hey, what's wrong with my bell? He murmured. I'd better take a look outside. Well, we know what's wrong, because look, that's green. There's Oobleck coming in. But see, he's got this shutter in his window, so he doesn't know what's going on outside. He poked his head out through the little trap door. Look. Merciful gracious, he gulped. What is that? All over my bell like greenish molasses. Not only your bell, Bartholomew cried. Look at that poor robin down there in that tree. And here's the robin. So here's the bell. And you can't ring the bell because this crap's all over it. Here's the robin. It's got it all over its nest. Look at the poor robin down there in that tree. She's stuck to her nest. She can't move a wing. That Oobleck's gooey. It's gummy. It's like glue. Oh, the bell ringer wrung his hands. If that green stuff sticks up robins, it'll stick up people, too. Someone's got to warn the people, cried Bartholomew. Got to wake 'em and warn 'em to stay inside their houses. I'll tell the royal trumpeter, he shouted. He turned and slid like lightning down the bell tower ladder. So they've got all these towers. So he was in the bell tower. Now he's going into the trumpeter's tower. So he's got to go down and then he's got to go up again. To the trumpeter's tower raced Bartholomew Cubbins and on up the steps, 4 stairs at a time. As he ran, he could hear the plop, plop of the Oobleck on the window panes. It was pelting against the palace walls, as big as greenish cupcakes now. So it's these big blobs, like a snowball size. And there he is. He's going up, 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 up. He yanked the covers off the snoring trumpeter. So this is very early in the morning when all this is happening. So nobody has woken up yet. This guy looks like he sleeps with his trumpet. Oh no, Bartholomew's bringing it to him. Yeah, he yanked the covers off the snoring trumpeter. He shoved his cold trumpet right into his sleepy hands. Get up, warn the people, blow the alarm. Alarm, yawned the trumpeter. Then his eyes saw the Oobleck. Those green things, Bartholomew. Where'd they come from? The king, panted Bartholomew. His royal magicians made them. The royal trumpeter leapt from his bed. That king of ours should be ashamed. He grabbed his trumpet out of the window. I'll blow, he shouted, the loudest alarm that's ever been heard in the kingdom of Did. And so now here he is. But all the royal trumpeter blew was glug. My horn, he gulped. One of those green things flew inside it. He tried to blow it out, but he couldn't blow it out. He tried to shake it out. He couldn't shake it out. I'll get it somehow, he yelled. I'll pull it out. No, shouted Bartholomew, don't touch it, because we know what happens if you touch it. But he's touching it. He's trying to pull it out. We see there. The trumpeter's hand was already in it. His fingers grabbed hold of the lump of Oobleck. He could feel it squiggle around in his fist like a slippery potato dumpling made of rubber. Ew. He pulled with all his might. The Oobleck began to stretch. Then, glowing, the Oobleck snapped back inside the trumpet. It yanked his arm back with it, right up to the elbow. I can't wiggle a finger, the trumpeter wailed. Oh, Bartholomew, what'll I do? I don't know, and I hate to leave you stuck with your horn, but if you can't warn the people of the kingdom, I've got to find someone who can. Out of the room and down the stairs raced Bartholomew Cubbins, so he's going to go again. Down to the chamber of the captain of the guards. The captain was humming in front of his mirror, combing the ends of his handsome mustache. So this guy's totally into himself, but at least he's up early. Captain, do something, shouted Bartholomew. Do something? Why? Smiled the captain. What's wrong? Captain, haven't you seen the dreadful Oobleck? It's coming down now, as big as greenish baseballs. Oh, that stuff? Laughed the captain. What's so dreadful about that, lad? You know, I think it's rather pretty. Captain, pleaded Bartholomew, it's dangerous. Nonsense, snorted the captain. Lad, are you trying to frighten me? Captains, my boy, are afraid of nothing. That stuff's harmless. I'll show you. I'll eat some. So this guy's brave, huh? Yeah. Eat some, gasped Bartholomew. Oh no. But before Bartholomew could stop him, the captain was leaning at his window, scooping up some Oobleck on the end of his sword. Don't, Captain, don't. And here he is, like trying to grab his arm and go like, no, don't do that. The captain did. By the time Bartholomew dragged him back inside the room, his mouth was glued tight shut with Oobleck. He tried to speak, but no words came out. All the noble captain of the guards could do was blow a lot of little sticky greenish bubbles. And there we see the bubbles coming out of him. He's trying to talk. "Forgive me for leaving you, Captain," said Bartholomew, "but a captain full of bubbles is no help at all." Bartholomew stretched the poor man out. He left him there on his chamber floor. Bartholomew went tearing through the zigzag palace hallways. "I'll get the king's horse. I'll ride through the country. I'll warn the people of the kingdom myself." So he's going to do a paw revere. He pushed open the door that led out to the royal stables. Got some big Oobleck coming down. And look, people are out in it already. There's people like looking out. Oh, they're still in the palace, so that's somebody. Maybe that's the queen. Maybe we'll find out. But all these, there's like a goat or something. Ram. This dude's house is totally covered with it. There's a cow that's stuck to a duck or something, and then a little duck up there. I don't know. All kinds of things happening here. Bartholomew stopped. He could go no further. The awful Oobleck was plumping down as big as greenish footballs now. Too late to warn the people of the kingdom. There were farmers in the fields getting stuck to hoes and plows. Goats were getting stuck to ducks, so that's, well, that's not a goat. That's a goat. Oh, that's a duck there, so there's a goat. Geese were getting stuck to cows, so that's a goose, and there's the cow. Outside the palace, it was piling up, great greenish tons of Oobleck, deeper and deeper on every roof in the land. There was nothing Bartholomew Cubbins could do out there. Shaking his head sadly, he stepped back inside. Wonder what the king's up to. But inside, a moment later, it was just as bad as out. With an angry roar, the Oobleck was suddenly hitting the palace harder. It was battering and spattering against the walls, as big as greenish buckets full of gooey asparagus soup. Like a sinking sailboat, the whole palace was springing leaks. The Oobleck was ripping the windows right off their hinges. So here's Bart looking at this crap coming through the window. And the fish in the fishbowl is going like, no. It was dripping through the ceilings. It was rolling down the chimneys. It was coming in everywhere, even through keyholes. From every bedroom in the palace came the howls of lords and ladies. Frightened in their nightgowns, they came jumping to their doors. "Go back to your beds. Get under your blankets." Bartholomew Cubbins went crying through the halls, but nobody paid the slightest attention. Everyone in the palace started rushing madly about, so they're not listening to him. Here he is. He's got the Oobleck coming after him, but he's trying to warn these people. The royal cook rushed down to the royal kitchen. Bartholomew Cubbins saw him trapped there, stuck to the 3 stew pots, a teacup, and a cat. So this guy's stuck to all this stuff. Sometimes I look like that when I'm cooking. The royal laundress, so that's the person who washes the clothes. The royal laundress rushed outside to save her laundry. Bartholomew saw her stuck right to the clothesline between two wooden stockings and the king's best Sunday blouse. He saw the royal fiddlers. They were stuck to their royal fiddles. Everywhere Bartholomew ran, he saw someone stuck to something. So here's the fiddles are another name for violins. And these guys are stuck to their violins, and he's running past. They were stuck up by the dozen. Every last friend he had in the world was flopping and floundering, all hopelessly caught in the goo. Then suddenly, amidst the hubbub, Bartholomew gasped, "The king! Where was the king?" He'd forgotten all about him. And we see here, remember that moose in the other one, Thidwick? This is what they wanted to do with him. Cut his head off and stuff it and put it on a plaque like that and hang it on the wall. His soldiers, they're all stuck. There's a dog. That looks like Duncan, that dog. Duncan would love this stuff. Duncan would just eat this stuff. He eats everything. So we see where the king is. It was in the throne room that Bartholomew found him. There he sat, old King Derwin, proud and mighty, ruler of the kingdom of Did, trembling, shaking, helpless as a baby. His royal crown was stuck to his royal head. The seat of his royal pants were stuck to his royal throne. Oobleck was dripping from his royal eyebrows. It was oozing into his royal ears. So the reason I keep saying royal is that these things all belong to the king. And royal comes from the word roi, like in French. Means king. And I think in Spanish it might even just be Roy, R-O-Y, Elroy. But they're saying this because this is a decision that this guy made. He wanted this. And his advisor saying, you don't want this. You don't know what this is going to do. But people in authority, they come up with these grandiose plans. They say, oh yeah, this is going to be good for everybody. And it sucks for everybody, including them. Fetch my magicians, Bartholomew, he commanded. Make them say some magic words. Make them stop the Oobleck falling. Bartholomew shrugged his shoulders. I can't fetch them, your majesty. Their cave on Mountain Nikatave is buried deep in Oobleck. Then I must think of some magic words, groaned the king. Oh, what are those words my magicians say? Shuffle, duffle, muzzle, muff. That's all I can remember, and they don't do any good. The Oobleck keeps on falling harder. And we see everything stuck with this guy. He's got this crap all over him. Bartholomew Cubbins could hold his tongue no longer. And it's going to keep falling, he shouted, until your whole great marble palace tumbles down. So don't waste your time saying foolish magic words. You ought to be saying some plain, simple words. Simple words? What do you mean, boy? I mean, said Bartholomew, this is all your fault. Now the least you can do is say the simple words, I'm sorry. No one had ever talked to the king like this before. What? He bellowed. Me? Me say I'm sorry? Kings never say I'm sorry. I am the mightiest king in all the world. So he's saying this to this little boy, and here's the boy going, you need to say I'm sorry. And he's going, how dare you, little boy? I'm a mighty king. But look at the crap all over him. That's how mighty he is. He made this. Bartholomew looked the king square in the eye. You may be a mighty king, he said, but you're sitting on Oobleck up to your chin, and so is everyone else in your land. And if you won't even say you're sorry, you're no sort of a king at all. Ooh, he might get his head chopped off. He might go up there next to that moose head. Bartholomew Cubbins turned his back. He started for the throne room door. But then Bartholomew heard a great deep sob. The old king was crying. Come back, Bartholomew Cubbins, you're right. It is all my fault, and I'm sorry. Oh, Bartholomew, I'm awfully, awfully sorry. And the moment the king spoke those words, something happened. So here he is, he's crying. I'm sorry, I'm awfully sorry. Maybe there was something magic in those simple words, I'm sorry. Maybe there, uh, maybe there was something magic in those simple words, it's all my fault. So there's a moral in this one. Maybe there was, and maybe there wasn't. But they say that as soon as the old king spoke them, the sun began to shine and fight its way through the storm. They say that the falling Oobleck blobs grew smaller and smaller and smaller. They say that all the Oobleck was stuck on all the people and on all the animals. The kingdom of Did just simply, quietly melted away. And here you see that they're all happy looking because this stuff's just dripping off of them. Your grandmother be going, you're getting it all over the floor. Don't tell her I said that. And then they say Bartholomew took the old king by the sleeve, led him up the steps of the high bell tower. He put the bell rope into His Majesty's royal hands, and the king himself rang the holiday bell. Then the king proclaimed a brand new national holiday in honor of the four perfect things that come down from the sky. The king now knew that these four old-fashioned things, the rain, the sunshine, the fog, and the snow, were good enough for any king in all the world, especially for him, old King Derwin of Did. That bird doesn't. Oh, he does look happy that he's ringing that bell. I thought maybe he was startled. And it looks like that's the end. Peace out.